following program is a production of Ho'ike Kauai Community Media.
Aloha and welcome to Island Alert, the show where we talk to Kauai's first responders. I'm Max Richardson, and you're about to watch part 2 of my interview with Officer Johnny Anderson, Kapa High School's school resource officer. If you haven't seen part 1, I'd encourage you to check it out before you watch this one. All right, without further ado, let's start the show.
Island Alert was made possible in part by the Kauai Island Utility Cooperative.
Sounds really busy, too. It sounds like you almost have 2 different jobs that you're doing at the same time because you're a police officer, but you're also like a school faculty member almost. And
yeah, it's just one of the different hats that we do, you know, an additional hat.
Yeah.
But it takes a special person to be a school resource officer and be good at it. You got to be able to have that compassion and that ability to separate yourself and be in that child's, you know, try to be and see where that person is coming from. Yeah. You know, it's not black and white. This job is not black and white. There's many variables, you know, when treating incidents. But yeah.
Yeah, human beings are complicated, and young human beings especially complicated.
Yes. And yeah, you know, you get them at the different stages. Sixth grade to 7th grade, big difference in their temperament and just the way they act, their maturity levels. Just from 6th to 7th grade is a huge difference. We recently, I was able to participate in the Makahiki games at the middle school, and you know we would do it. You know, 6th grade first, we conduct the games with them, then we go 7th and then 8th. And you could just see, just by going through the grades, the difference in the, you know, the maturity. You know, by 7th grade, they're too cool for school, you know, don't want to get their nails dirty. They're just like, you know, just really, really different from 6th to 7th.
Yeah. And I was glad to hear you say you do traffic enforcement in the mornings, too, because, man, sometimes around those schools, that traffic can be a nightmare, man. So I'm glad someone's keeping an eye on it because it can be brutal.
It's the presence, you know, and my philosophy with my style of policing is, you know, I love to give a lot of warnings. Warnings are important to me, you know, and to give that person a chance, because a ticket, you know, a cell phone violation in a school zone is over $400. You know, and that to put that burden on, you know, a person, it's you know, it's something that I don't take lightly. So I always like to give that initial warning, but we have a way to check to see if that person's been warned previously, right? So, you know, you're not giving a warning to the same person 20 times.
Yeah, I know. I definitely, when I worked in law enforcement, I always felt like if I had to write someone a ticket or terminate someone's voyage, or if I had to take my handcuffs out of the handcuff pouch, that's almost felt like a failure on my part, because I'm like, well, you know, like I would much rather say, hey, see this, you shouldn't do this, and then they leave educated and also pleased that they didn't get in trouble, versus you have to be like, oh, I was in the Coast Guard, so it was all nautical stuff, so be like, oh, your life ring is 22 inches, it's supposed to be 24 inches, so here's a $500 ticket. You're like, oh God, I feel like such a jerk, you know, I feel like I let this guy down, and he doesn't like the Coast Guard now because I did that, you know.
Yeah, so it reminds me of a professor I had in college. He was well decorated. He worked for the FBI. He was head security of the Venetian Hotel at the time, and just well decorated, you know, human being. And he told me that, and I always remember this, that he never had to draw his gun. He was always able to, which I find it hard to believe now, but I remember that sticking with me, that he was able to use his voice and de-escalate the situation, you know, every single time, and, you know, didn't have to draw his weapon, you know, in his situations. And he's, you know, had many years prior to becoming a professor. I just remember that sticking with me is, you know, him not having to, you know, draw his weapon and using his words to de-escalate situations.
Yeah, that's great, and that's I think that's the sign of good policing is because you don't want to have to draw your weapon. No. You know, What kind of situations do you find yourself helping with most often in a school setting, like, from an enforcement perspective, I guess?
Well, on the school level, the seriousness of the crimes are not as high. We don't, for the most part, we don't handle like very serious crimes, like murder, high assaults. It's usually low level type crimes, a lot of truancy, tobacco product cases, that kind of stuff, bullying, which, can turn very seriously. But we do a lot of low level crimes that not always necessarily turns out to be, an arrestable offense. Right. We're able to use our discretion based on the totality of the situation. Yeah, so a lot of low level. Unfortunately, back in the days, there was a lot of cigarettes smoking, right, where you could smell a mile away. Nowadays, it's vaping, and you have pineapple, you have mango, cotton candy flavors. So these kids are just, it's pretty bad when it comes to the tobacco products and the amount of kids that are doing it. I feel like nowadays there's more of a problem with those type of things than there ever was back in the days. Because me growing up, it was cigarettes. I never smoked them, but like only a handful of kids would probably do that. But nowadays, like with the vapes, and the accessibility, and it's a huge problem.
But yeah, now you got to be Dick Tracy to figure out if somebody's vaping, because you're like, oh yeah, it smells like cotton candy. Well, that could be anything.
It could be perfume, that kind of stuff.
Yeah, or it smells like lilikoi. Well, it's Kauai. It smells like lilikoi a lot of the time, as in the cafeteria and stuff.
Yeah.
But yeah, I can only imagine how tricky it is, unless you actually see a kid with a vape in his hand, to know someone's vaping. All right, so we touched on it a little bit. How do you handle tense situations or conflicts, maybe situations that might threaten to or might actually move towards a physical problem, while still helping everyone feel safe and supported?
So like we spoke about before with that professor, not having to draw his gun, and the importance of de-escalation. Number one, as a police officer, when we're dealing with tense situations, we're trying to de-escalate, right, by any means necessary. However creative, we have to get that de-escalation or cooperation is huge, because the kids, they're smart. They can see it if you are freaking out or, you're getting angry. So you got to really be able to watch yourself, because the kids will see it, and it'll affect, the way they respond to you. If you're freaking out versus trying to stay calm and cool, in the situations, and the confidence that you have and you show when you're calm in stressful situations, is, I think, what affects other people's or teachers or people that's watching, lets them know that they're safe, like, oh, this officer, he knows what he's doing. We're okay.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Yeah, if the police officer's scared, then I should be scared. But if the police officer's calm, then he probably has it under control. So
it has a lot to do with training and how well prepared we are, consistent training to stay sharp, in any situation, And with the kids, of course, you don't really want to go hands-on,
definitely
the kids,
definitely.
As much as possible.
That'd be like my nightmare.
Yeah, you definitely want to use any means necessary. There was a situation where a student, he was special needs, but he was known for running away from the school. So I got a call from the principal saying, hey, so-and-so ran away. He's running, towards the street. So I responded from the high school to go meet with the kid. He actually had made it all the way down to Kuhio Highway, which is the main highway by then. So I found him. I parked my car, and I approached him. I said, hey, how's it going? What's going on? And he was having a moment to where, I couldn't speak with him. So technically I could have grabbed them right there, put them in my car, and then, call it good. But I decided at that moment that I was going to walk with him. So from Kaiahau Road, a little bit past Kaiahau Road, the main highway, I walked with this boy all the way to the skate park where we met his parents. Wow. And I was able to hand them off from me to his parents. We were making calls while I was walking with him. Hey, can we have the parents meet us at the skate park? And they did. And I just walked with them.
That's great.
Because I knew in the back of my mind, like, if I grab this kid, given his, his circumstances and his mental health, that, all hell could break loose. Yeah. If I were to go that route. So I was like, I could use the steps. I'm gonna walk with this boy, and we'll talk story, and we'll do it this way. And that's what I did.
That's really great. And anytime you have to go hands on, everyone has a bad day.
Yes.
But I can imagine that would have turned what was obviously began as a very negative experience into, at the very least, a less negative, but probably probably that kid's going to look back and it's a positive experience.
I hope so. And we've had
talked with Officer Anderson.
Yeah.
So what's something about being a school resource officer that people might be surprised to learn?
Well, we kind of talked about it before, but what surprised me as a school resource officer is, the different hats that we put on. Here on Kauai, I'm not too sure how they do it on other islands, but here on Kauai, school resource officer, we're actually part of the community engagement unit as well. So, like I said before, we participate in, 90% of community engagement things here on the island, whether it's neighborhood watches, career days, our KPAL league, Quiet Police Activities League. We are, instrumental in making that happen. So there's very many. There is a lot of different things that we do to support the community that, people just think that a school resource officer just stays at the school and handles school things, but it goes beyond that, so we have a lot of different roles that we do to help out the community.
Yeah, and I can see there's a lot of conceptual overlap there between a school resource officer and like KPAL. I could see it makes sense for the school resource officer to be involved with KPAL. There's a lot of overlap. And I know what surprised me talking to you was that you have a class that you taught. I was, wow, that's surprising. When I was in high school in California, our school resource officer just stood around in the cafeteria and made sure that you weren't littering.
Yeah.
We never really talked to them except at lunch, so that's cool that you have a classroom that you can teach.
Yes. I figured that one I took the initiative to do those classes. That's not standard SRO procedure, but for me, I was just thinking of ways that, I can engage with the kids, right? And something that I'm passionate about, right? So what I also do is for all the freshmen coming in from, the middle school, I have a class, like an introduction class with all the freshmen, 300-400 freshmen. I'll go to their classes. That way I can, meet each one of them and then explain, what I do as a school resource officer and, things that they can get into trouble for on campus. So that's like, an icebreaker for, if I hadn't had them already in my DARE class previously, because I teach DARE for the 7th graders.
Oh, well. That's great. That's great.
All 7th graders. Yeah, we have a DARE class that we teach. But for the incoming freshmen, I like to do a presentation. It's a full class. I give the teachers a break, and I explain what we do as school resource officers. And if they have any questions, whether it's regarding vapes or e-bike usage, I go over, questions and answers with the kids and, introduce myself to the kids.
I bet that makes a big difference.
It is, yeah. So that along with the active shooter classes, that I'll tell the teachers, if you want me to come to your class and, talk to the kids about it, let me know, So one teacher just recently reached out and wanted me to teach the active shooter for her kids.
That's great. That's great. And that's awesome that that you took the initiative on that. What a great idea.
Yeah.
And that's cool that you got to put that into practice, because I think that's valuable.
Yep.
So what personal qualities do you think help someone be successful in your job? Because not every person is cut out to be a police officer, and not every police officer is cut out to be an SRO. So, it's a special person that does well at it. What do you think?
Well, number one, you got to love kids. You got to be, a people person. You can't be so introverted in this line of work. You got to, put yourself out there. You got to be, very honest and transparent, when speaking with the kids and the parents, because they'll know the kids, if you're faking it or not faking it, they'll see right through you. So you got to have honest intentions. You gotta want to help the kids and see a positive future for them, and a genuine care. You really gotta care.
Yeah. Well, that's heartwarming to hear you say that. It sounds like we've got the right guy as the SRO at Kapa for sure, and I'm sure, seeing you as a representative of the others, I'm sure the other schools have great SROs too. So that's great to see that KPD is, how do I word it? It's great to see that KPD is taking that proactive role in, helping make people's lives more positive. So we talked about some ways that you help schools stay prepared for like big emergencies. What are some ways that you stay prepared, or that you help students and staff stay prepared for smaller emergencies? What are some of the less alarming and more just sort of day-to-day ways that you keep people safe?
Well, one of them is that traffic enforcement in the mornings for, the people bringing the kids to school and the students themselves, the ones that can drive. As a school resource officer, you need to work well with others. And, my team at the school is the security staff, the teachers, and then the principals and the vice principals, right? So we always make it a point to communicate and talk about, the recent issues, whether, we suspect that the kids are doing drugs in the bathroom or somebody's bringing it in. So we're on alert with that. I always talk to the security staff to make sure that they're prepared and safe when, handling any type of foreign substances. With this day and age, with the fentanyl, it's a super scary thing, that we actually have this thing, fentanyl, that can be added to, anything. Yeah. So that's one of my huge concerns that I speak with the staff, that, it could look like just a gummy bear, but, it could be laced with, fentanyl. And so we keep prepared in that, we're all certified Narcan. So the Narcan, I always tell the security to be prepared, handle things with gloves. You don't have to sniff it, just leave it be, and I'll come and handle it. Just safety procedures like that to make sure that not only the kids are safe, but the staff is safe as well, right? Because that's not always common knowledge that, you can sniff something and next thing you know, you can get contaminated. Yeah. And, next thing you know, you're overdosing.
Yeah, I mean, it can be lethal right now.
It can be lethal, yeah. So we've just being prepared for that kind of stuff is, another thing that I do to make sure that, we're safe.
That's good. Yeah. Okay. So even the day-to-day parts of your job can be pretty serious and gravitic.
Yeah. It's important, that type of stuff. So.
So you've been in this role for 4 years. How have the sort of the specifics or the intricacies of your job changed in those 4 years since you first became an SRO? And maybe what kinds of things, what have you learned along this 4 year journey?
Patience is huge. And, prior to going into this, working patrol,
Well, I imagine you don't really have time to be patient necessarily as a patrol officer because you've got a lot of different stuff going on and you've got to be places.
yeah. So this one, in this role, it's a little bit more slowed down. So your ability to kind of take your time is key, actually, because you learn a lot more when you take your time and you listen, to whether it's the students or, the staff members to get a clear picture. And if they feel like you're actually caring and listening to them, you solve probably 9 out of 10 problems by just listening carefully and making that person feel appreciated when you're talking to them.
So the School Resource Officer program, that's part of the Community Engagement Division, right? Which that division was just recently made Employee of the Month collectively, right? The whole division was made Employee of the Month. Can you tell me a little bit about that?
We got Employee of the Month for a few things we did over the summer. It was a Touch a Truck event. We did our K-PAL flag football league, and then we also did a junior police academy, which I was instrumental in helping that happen.
So, yeah, I heard that was kind of your sort of brainchild, was bringing the junior police academy back. It had been gone for a while, and you brought it back, or you helped bring it back. Tell me about what is that? What is Junior Police Academy, and why did it go away? And tell me the story of you bringing it back.
So, it kind of started, I was thinking of different ways to engage with the youth, right? So we have our Quiet Police Activities League, which we have...
flag football.
So, yeah.
Boxing.
We have our Kapa League, which we have boxing, wrestling, flag football, various sporting events, right? But I was thinking, what else can we do or have we done to, make it more relatable to actually police work, right? So I was like, our Junior Police Academy, we haven't had that in a while. So I, did some research on the previous ones that we had, and I was like, okay, let's do this. Let's bring back this Junior Police Academy. Whatever it takes, let's make it happen. So luckily, I have a lot of supporting staff, supervisors that gave me the thumbs up and said, yeah, go ahead, let's do this. So my goal was to make a fun learning curriculum, for the kids, kind of like a sampler of what we do as police officers. Starting from, we actually started with our physical readiness tests.
What is the Junior Police Academy?
Okay, so the Junior Police Academy is a way for us to show young people what the Quiet Police Department is about and the different jobs and tasks we do as police officers. So what we wanted to do is we wanted to show the students a well-rounded view of what it is like to be a police officer, from investigations all the way to the courthouse. So we did a mock scene for the students. We had 13 students total, where they worked together to investigate a crime. They found the suspect, arrested the suspect, wrote a report, and then they went to court. So we worked with the prosecutors to set that up. We had a mock trial to where they got to see, all the way to court, what happens there. So I wanted it to be, fun, learning for them. That way they can see what we do and hopefully, maybe spark an interest in our line of work, whether it's the crime scene, investigator portion, maybe they want to be a lawyer, police officer. So in addition to that part, we also had various demonstrations where, we had our K9 unit do demonstrations for them. We also had our drone team come and show, the different drones, which I believe is the future. That drone thing is crazy. What they can do with the drones now.
Yeah, I as a cameraman, drones are a huge game changer.
It is.
So I can only imagine from as a law enforcement officer or just as a law enforcement agency, what a force multiplier it can be.
It is,
to be able to fly without having to fuel a helicopter.
Yeah. So we got the kids to be able to operate the drones, our indoor drones, and we have our outdoor drones. We also took them to our shooting range, and we taught them about firearm safety, and they were able to shoot. So yeah, it was fun. I believe that it was very successful, and the kids learned a lot. And hopefully this next summer we can actually double down and do 2 junior police academies. If we have that interest there.
Yeah, that'd be great. Well, next time you do one, I would love to do an episode about it.
Yeah, no, it was
That's
awesome.
cool.
It was fun. The kids had a blast, and we had a blast too because we're basically showing them,
Yeah,
kind of a poo-poo platter of what we do.
yeah.
That's
That's a great way to word it too, a poop platter.
Poo-poo platter.
Yeah. No, that's awesome. That sounds super cool. So I asked you a lot of questions today. What is something that I didn't ask you that you want to say to folks at home or that you wish I had asked you?
We at the Kauai Police Department, we have a lot of good guys that care a lot, and on this small island, it really takes and it's a common saying, it takes a village, right? And we are doing our best to make sure that we play our part in creating that village environment so that the next generations can succeed. I'm a good example of what can happen in this island. I feel confident that we can work together, and create a good environment for the kids so that we can have a better future for this island. That's why I always say that I wouldn't want to be a police officer anywhere else. This island is where I'm from and is special to me, and I'll do whatever it takes to make sure that the kids here succeed.
Well, that's awesome. That's awesome. And it's I think, yeah, thanks for coming on the show. I think you're a good example of why Kauai has one of the best police departments that I've ever seen. I think because it's such a small town, or a small island, it has the whole kind of county has that small town vibe. And, the police officers are your neighbors and your friends, you mentioned you live in the homesteads. I live in the homestead, so we're practically neighbors. And I know I've had times before where, there was a disturbance in my neighborhood. I called 911. The police officer showed up, and he was a dude I knew. and it was fun. We both kind of wanted to be like, "Oh, hey, how you doing?" But then like, "Oh, well, never mind. Obviously, neither one of us is doing great because this is happening." But yeah, I think I've lived in a lot of places. I've moved around a lot, and I think the most positive experiences and opinions I've had of a police department have been KPD. So, and I think you're a really good example of why that is.
Right on. Thank you.
So thank you so much for coming on the show.
Thank you for having me.
Thanks for chatting with me. It's been a pleasure. Well, that's our show. Officer Anderson, thank you again so much for coming on. It's a pleasure chatting with you. Tune in next time when we'll talk to another one of Kauai's professional heroes. But until then, stay safe out there. Aloha. Tiana wrote basically all these questions, and I was like, oh, you shouldn't have to do that. I'll look through them and I'll revise them to make. And I changed the wording here and there, but I was like, these are already great. I don't need to do anything with them. And like, there's that part of the ego part that's like, well, I got to rewrite them so that they're my questions. But I was like, you know what? These are just so good. I don't need to change them at all. So I'm just going to print out what Tiana emailed me and ask those.
Allegra Gaines is Ho'ike's president and CEO, while Lego Sameta is the administrative assistant. Smita Narong handles production and education services. Max Richardson also handles production, but IT services as well. Trisha Allen is Ho'ike's news and events producer, and Olivia Franco is our county producer and social media manager.